Hasn't always been that way, and it doesn't always have to be that way. There's civilizations that have lived thousands of years on this planet that lived in symbiosis and mutualistic relationships with the ecosystem, supporting functioning ecosystems, and being an integral part of the ecosystem and being a keystone species of the ecosystem. We're able to get up and walk around and maybe plant seeds or really affect our ecosystem through tools like fire and chainsaws even. There's a lot of good that we can do, and there's a lot of harm that we can do. I just think that we have gone too far on the harm side and paid little to no attention to the good side. In one of my previous videos, I was talking about how these trees here have the nutrients and DNA of salmon and other anadromous fish and fish in general. And while I use the term DNA, I'm really referring to the nutrients that make up the tree and the nutrients that made up the fish. And there's a specific kind of nitrogen that can be traced directly from the salmon to the tree rings of these trees. And some of these trees hold hundreds of years of salmon run data. Essentially, you can measure the content of nitrogen and come to kind of a conclusion, or at least an approximation of what the salmon run was like 100, 200, 300,000 years ago. And why do I say all this? I'm trying to explain how everything is connected. I mean, these trees literally produce the rain that produces the rivers that bring the salmon up, and it's almost like these trees are manipulating the earth to produce the water cycle and produce the rivers so that the fish have somewhere to swim and the fish come and fertilize the trees. But is that really what's going on? I think it might be. I don't know. That's a little dissecting of the ecosystem for me. I'd rather see it as a functioning system that has all these integral parts that do amazing things. But these trees, they transpire through photosynthesis. They release 95% of the water that they uptake. They release that into the air. That becomes clouds. That becomes rain. That becomes rivers that flow to the ocean and fish swim in. Why am I saying all this? I want you to understand the whole system of it, but I also want to inspire you and encourage you to do something about it. So then the question comes up, what can you do? I don't have all the answers. I'm not sure that anybody has all the answers, but you can do something. And one thing would be upholding the United States Constitution, specifically a clause that refers to treaties. The United States has gone around and made treaties with many nations, specifically about 500 tribal nations. And I think that it would do remarkable things if we uphold our end of that deal and encourage and force our government into respecting those treaties and treating them as the supreme law of the land, as the Constitution states that treaties are. I live in a pretty conservative state, and I've been called a liberal, and I've been called all kinds of things, to be honest. I've never really considered myself much of anything other than a human, but that being said, I've always thought that I guess I had conservative values, and I still feel that way. Conservation has the same root word, and if you view these things as natural resources, why would we want to squander those things away? Why wouldn't we want to conserve them? That being said, I do have very strong views as it comes to preservation, conservation, and support of ecosystems in general, and feel that we have a responsibility to continue to support the thing that gives us life. But more than that, being raised in a small town, a small community, I was always taught that, being a man of your word was the thing to do. Thought it was a value that we all held. And, our ancestors made these deals, and it wasn't that long ago. And I think it'd be the right thing to do to keep our word. By holding to these values, not only do we get to be people of our word, we also get to help the environment, because these treaties were made to protect a lot of these resources and things that give life. And this is just a first step. There's a lot more that we can do. We don't have to stop there, and you are not helpless. Don't be complicit in the destruction of the thing that gives us life. This actually touches on a subject that is kind of near and dear to my heart. I've spent a lot of time thinking about it, and I've spent a lot of my career working, managing invasive species. And I actually don't think that humans are an invasive species. While at one time I did wonder if we were a virus on the planet, I think we exhibit invasive species characteristics. And I think that currently we're destroying the environment that we live in